Hello everyone, welcome to Scott's Comics Retro Review, or SCRR, or SCRR, whatever's easier for you. Anyway, this channel is dedicated to people who want to get into comics but are not sure where to begin, or they are into comics but they haven't read any of the issues that I'm reviewing. So please pass this on if you know anyone who is in one of those two categories, alright? Anyway, there is a method to my madness in the order of the books that I'm reviewing, and I'm now at my favorite superhero. So I had done all the previous ones and never actually got to my favorite superhero yet. Anyway, I am talking about Spider-Man, and I wanted to give a little bit of a background on Spider-Man. Not the stuff that we all know, which is that he was bitten by either a radioactive spider or a genetically enhanced spider, depending on which version you've seen. However, I want to talk about behind the scenes in his creation. So this was back when Marvel Comics was just getting started, and Stan Lee went to one of his go-to guys, one of his main go-to guys, Jack Kirby, and he had an idea for a character called Spider-Man. And he told Jack, kind of what he was thinking, and Jack started working on it. And Stan wasn't very happy with it. What Jack came back with was, even though Captain America wasn't being published, was a character that kind of looked a little bit like Captain America. So Stan took what Jack did and went to Steve Ditko, his second go-to guy, and he asked him if he could do something with Spider-Man, that he would enjoy. Now, understand that I got that information from an interview supposedly that was done with Steve Ditko, and he redrew the image of Captain America from memory of what Jack did. So we're going by memories, okay? Which memories aren't perfect, but I have a tendency to think that Steve's version is correct, that's what happened. And the cover of the book, the first issue that Spider-Man ever appeared in, is done by Jack Kirby, but the interiors are done by Steve Ditko. Stan Lee's the writer and Steve Ditko's the artist. And Steve Ditko's the one that brought the quirkiness to Spider-Man. Peter Parker was a different kind of character. He wore glasses, he was skinny. Spider-Man was not a big bulky guy. And he had these like wonky rubbery type poses that he got into, all thanks to Steve Ditko with all the visuals. And this review is actually on Stan Lee's Spider-Man, because Stan Lee happens to be perhaps my most beloved writer. If I was going to categorize him, he would be the most beloved writer. He's done a lot of amazing things. I don't want to take credit away from any of the artists that he's worked with over the years. Stan has admitted he couldn't have done it without them. I want to actually give more credit to everybody involved. But Spider-Man, the writing behind Spider-Man is really amazing. And Stan Lee's Spider-Man, anyway. I want to talk a little bit too about why this says Amazing Fantasy number 15 and and not Spider-Man number 1. It's because when Steve had done his work, Stan brought it over to Martin Goodman, who was the publisher, and showed it to Martin. And Martin said to Stan, "Are you kidding me? Spiders are creepy. No one likes spiders. Kids especially don't like spiders. Kill it. Get rid of it." So what he did was he stuck it into the pages of Amazing Fantasy, which was about to be canceled, and in fact number 15 was the last issue of Amazing Fantasy. Amazing Fantasy was an anthology series, which meant you got several stories in one comic book. These were real short stories that you would get, 5-6 pages, and you'd get quite a few of them. And then in this issue there's 3. And then there's 2 Spider-Man stories, which they call Part 1 and Part 2, which is talking about the Amazing Spider-Man. And what happened was the series sold so well, this last issue sold so well, Martin Goodman calls Stan Lee in and says, "You know that Spider-Man character I like so much? Well, put out a book on him." So anyway, Stan said, "All right," and he went ahead and went forth with Spider-Man #1, which is guest starring the Fantastic Four. And the Fantastic Four was Marvel's flagship title. I'm going to do reviews on Fantastic Four later. But he does show up in there. And again, here's the wonky pose, right? And it's really good stuff. But I was too young for these when they first came out. And when I actually got into comic books, they had a series out. I used to buy them from what they call newsstand, and I used to buy Marvel Tales, a book called Marvel Tales, which reprinted the old Spider-Mans. Well, by the time I started collecting it, it wasn't the Steve Ditko Spider-Mans, it was the Johnny Romita Spider-Mans. Now, some of you today may think of this as Johnny Romita Jr., but this was actually Johnny Romita Sr. So I got to see a lot of those issues through the Marvel Tales reprints, but still reading Stan Lee's Spider-Man. So that was pretty amazing for me as a kid. When I got older, Marvel was kind enough to reprint these stories. This is a reprint. It's called the Marvel Milestone Edition. Obviously I bought them, which it reprints the entire issue, including the ads that no longer exist. It says right here, these are facsimiles. They no longer are available. These products are no longer available. But I've also bought Spider-Man. Marvel came out with something called the Masterworks series, and I went ahead and bought the Marvel's Masterworks of Spider-Man as well. And this one goes a lot further along. It goes all the way down to issue number no, this is number 5. Yeah, issue number 5, it's correct. I thought it went further than that. I do have other Marvel Masterworks, by the way, but I just pulled this out to show this to you. What was happening with me was I would get so caught up into what was happening with Peter Parker that when the supervillains came along, I was kind of upset that they interrupted what was happening there. I also have this. This is the Essential Spider-Man. Wow, that's weird the way they printed that. Anyway, this is the Essential Spider-Man, and this was a series of black and white books that Marvel had put out. And what you would do is you'd get a lot more issues. So here, but it would be in black and white. So let me give you an example. Here's what. Here's kind of what they look like. Now, these colorings here are using modern day techniques, so I don't think it's exactly to the way it was originally, but I think they're getting as close as they can. So you have these two, see what they look like, and then you have this, and as you can see, it's a lot of it's kind of washed out because of the gray. They actually got better with reprinting it, but one of the things I always love about these black and whites is that I get to see the line work that showed up, which once it was colored over, you couldn't really see it. Oh, look, a Jack Kirby Spider-Man. Spider-Man tackles the Human Torch, and this is done by Jack Kirby. Nice. But mostly it's all Steve Ditko in this volume of the Essentials. And like almost everything that we love about Spider-Man today comes from these early issues. The fact that he's the hard luck hero, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. It's all simply amazing stuff to me. Steve Ditko left the book, I want to say towards the end here. Looks like he goes into the next issue. This is an annual, it looks like. Sorry, I should have bookmarked it. Yeah, it's definitely an annual, where Spider-Man meets the Sinister Six. And then he left shortly after that. But they were having some people say that they were having a dispute but they weren't really. It wasn't really a dispute because they didn't. It's not like they sat around talking to each other and arguing about it. What would happen a lot of times is Stanley would have Stan and Steve would talk about the plot, and then Steve would go home and draw the book, and then Steve would bring the book back in, and Stan would script it. And it's not like they really kind of argued about it. They almost didn't see each other a whole lot, but they did have misunderstandings. That whereas Steve didn't want Mary Jane, for example, to be this beautiful woman, he wanted her to be kind of regular looking. And Stan, of course, once Steve left, Stan made her into this beautiful woman. And there was kind of a running joke for a long time where Aunt May was trying to get Peter Parker to meet up with Mary Jane, and they kept missing each other. I don't even know if it's going to be here. Probably not. But it would be like she would walk away. Mary Jane would be waiting around with Aunt May, and then we would never see her face. She would always be hidden. And then when Peter Parker showed up, she'd already have to leave. So we didn't see what her face looked like. They kept her hidden for a long time. It was very playful, kind of a running joke. It was kind of funny. But then as soon as Stan Lee took over, as soon as Johnny Romita came in, Stan Lee went ahead and made her, Mary Jane, this really beautiful redhead. But anyway, it was. I just wanted to say that this is absolutely a definitely recommend read. Some of the stuff might seem a little clunky, according to modern day standards, because they were writing to a more naive crowd, I should say. Kids seemed to be younger back then, even though they were the same age as they are today. Like an 8-year-old today is still an 8-year-old from back then, but the 8-year-old back then seemed to be a little more naive, whereas today they seem to be a little bit more knowledgeable and savvy about things. So the stories do come off a little bit clunky. I'm gonna admit that. It's like they kind of explain everything to you, but still, Stan Lee had this style about him that was pretty darn amazing, and it's one of the reasons why I recommend it. And again, I so much got into the soap opera behind it that many times the supervillain would come along and I'd be like, no, I want to keep reading what's happening with Peter Parker. And I think that was what made Marvel Comics very successful. Anyway, these books are really no longer available unless you go down on the back issue bin and look them up. But you can find, I have a link down below for what's known as the Epic Collection. And what they did was they printed it in color, but it's on better paper, like this paper here, even this paper here. This paper is like a slick paper, but it's even on better paper than that, and the colors are more vibrant, and you get more issues than you'd get like the amount of issues you would find here, but it would be thinner, like this. I mean, the publishing has gone along great. Anyway, take a look at it down below. Since I have all these so many times, I didn't bother to get the Epic Collection. I may end up getting rid of these and getting the Epic Collection to replace, but I haven't decided yet. But anyway, if you want to check this out, go ahead and take a look down below. I have the link down there for it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like, subscribe, share. Please tell me your comments down below. Maybe I said something wrong. I'm going mostly by memory, but I'm pretty sure I got all of this information that I gave you accurate. Anyway, this is Scott's Comics Retro Review, and thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great day.